going to be Kian Amini versus Seth Ramos here. And like we had kind of talked about a little bit earlier, it is going to be Dragapult versus the world today. But what an interesting deck to feature most. We got Kian on the left side though, and this player has many big placements from years ago. Top 32 specifically at Worlds 2015, top 16 at US Nationals in 2016, and third at OCIC 2017. So sitting currently at 760 championship points, which is really great for your top 135 chase that you're really going for, but obviously you just want more.
Yeah, it looks like Kian is going for that Worlds invite, if at all possible, today. Meanwhile, on the other side, Seth Ramos has had two top 128 finishes this season with Flareon and with Mega Box. That means this is the big breakout finish potentially, considering this record so far. They started off 1-0-2, so that's 1 win and 2 ties in this tournament, on the verge of being knocked out, and has rattled off 7 straight wins to get to this record right now. This is make or break for Seth.
Absolutely not easy to do in a format full of Dragapult as well. But like we had mentioned, that this Mega Lopunny deck seems to be the one that's going to be our top challenger here, kind of coming out of the woodwork and making its way into what is our kind of breaking out here at our top tables. It also partnered up with Mega Frostlass as well here too. We know that Mega Frostlass is a great tank, can take a couple of hits, but also does punish decks like Dragapult, who tend to have a lot of cards in the hand on having that large hand size. So I'm excited to see how both players are going to get set up, and I really want to see what Mega Lopunny and Mega Frostlass can do.
A lot of tricks up both players' sleeves. This should be a very exciting matchup. You can see on Kian's side, the Dragapult, the variant he's looking to run here has the 2-1-1 Duskull Dusclops Dusknoir line. So that's going to make it extremely relevant if Seth has the right tools to counter that. And I see a Psyduck.
Psyduck is pretty important in Seth's list, but let's take a look first at the prize cards. Seeing a couple of resources on Kian's side that I'm like, for example, seeing the Crispin in there, that early acceleration with Dragapult is really what Dragapult players are looking for, but also the Meowth as well, Boss's Orders. But on the other side, for Seth's prizes, I did see one copy of the Mega Lopunny in there. There are only 2 in the list. So Seth is going to have to be a little bit more careful here, maybe even lean a little more into using Mega Frostlass at certain times. So let's see how it goes.
One Frostlass prized as well. That's going to mean fewer attackers available for Seth. Going to figure out who is going to go first. Psyduck is already inactive, so that's going to prevent any Dusknoir, Dusclops, or Duskull as long as it doesn't get knocked out, attaching that energy. It looks like the plan for Seth is to set up all those basics, get ready, and as soon as possible do that deck search, figure out what is in his prize cards. Ooh, it looks like it's already over.
Psyduck attach and pass, not exactly what you want to see, but here comes Kian with immediately Dreepy hitting the bench with an energy attached onto it, and a Lily's Determination as well. For Seth, in his Mega Lopunny deck, there is 1 copy of Fan Rotom to get all of the Dunsparces ready to go. There's 4 copies of Buddy Buddy Poffin, so it's extremely painful when you miss, but you are up technically against Dragapult Dusknoir, so starting the Psyduck isn't necessarily terrible here too.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is that going first means Budu's Itchy Pollen is going to prevent items that second turn. That first turn was extremely important to get those Buddy Buddy Poffins to get everything going, maybe some Poképad. That's not going to be happening here. Although, did you see a Snorunt in his hand? Because I thought I saw a Snorunt that did not get played down. That's interesting.
Could just be reserving some of the damage counters to be sent back over to Kian's side here. Definitely don't want to overextend the bench at all here, but Kian going to play the Poképad and begin this opening deck search. Like we had talked about in the prizes, 1 Crispin, a Meowth, 1 Dreepy, a Dragapult, Monkey Dory, and Boss's Orders. So nothing that's going to limit too much of the consistency with Kian's deck here. It's just a matter about getting set up. And to be quite honest, with Seth's side of the board not being too set up on his own, he can really take his time, which Dragapult tend to start doing.
Dragapult definitely has this match plan very settled this first turn. We need to see as many basics as possible, particularly those Dreepies. Every Dreepy you get in play means next turn you can evolve it into Dracloak, means next turn you can evolve it into Dragapult. That's your attacker, that's your draw engine, that's your everything. So more Dreepy, the better. And with 2 already on the field compared to 0 attackers on Seth's side, that's got to feel good for Kian.
Still looking through with Poképad here. can start to get the Duskull set up if he so chooses. It is just one copy of Psyduck on Seth's side, but once you see the Psyduck, you can safely assume that you just want to go kind of this straight Dragapult route, which is very possible. Like we've kind of seen on the board, Kian's side is very okay right now. 3 Dreepy and Budu in the active. Does have an energy attachment safe on the bench here as well. So if I'm Kian, I'm not seeing the Duskulls, but that's okay.
Yeah, you don't really need the Duskull right away. If you're not familiar with it, the ability Damp on Psyduck prevents Pokemon on your side of the field from using self-knockout abilities. That is particularly Dusclops and Dusknoir. So no Duskull in play is not a problem. You're not planning on using the Dusclops or Dusknoir right now anyway, until that Psyduck gets knocked out. And with 1 damage counter already on it from Itchy Pollen, the time is ticking. Come on, Seth, let's see a basic.
Does have the Snorunt in hand and also 1 copy of Lily's Determination as well. The fun part about this Mega Frostlass, Mega Lopunny deck is that it plays a lot of copies of Battle Cage to prevent a lot of the damage counters to even more, in a sense, to be thrown around left and right. It will be Kian playing a copy of Jamming Tower as well, and that's really important for the air balloon that you're going to need to use Mega Lopunny to go in and out of the active, so you can use Gale Thrust to its full ability here. But the thing is, Seth is item locked, so does have to draw into these Beneries now without a Buddy Poffin. There's 1. Oh my goodness, this actually works out pretty well. Does get 2 Dunsparce and a Baneri as well.
That's fantastic. That is literally the best case scenario, because especially since he had to pass going first, Fan Rotom is not available. It's in the deck as a one-of. It will be able to search out up to 3 colorless Pokemon with 100 HP or less, but only on your first turn. So now it's kind of a card that just needs to get discarded as soon as it's in your hand, because the only thing it can do is attack for 70 damage if a Stadium is in play, which is either going to be a... Actually, Kian is playing some interesting stadiums here. Hopefully we'll see them coming up, but for Seth, the stadium would be a Battle Cage, and that creates an interesting interaction with the Frostlass, not necessarily the Mega Frostlass, but the small Frostlass, the one prizer that deals bench damage with Pokemon that have abilities. Doesn't look like that's coming into play this turn, obviously, since he's just passed over. Right now, it's the Dracloak show with, my goodness, that charged up Dreepy on the bench. Wonder if the next plan is to use some kind of rare candy.
Does have it in the hand. Does already have it in the hand there, as the Ultra Ball is going to be coming into place here. And with a board like this, especially with Seth still having Psyduck in the active, we'll be able to just wipe it off the board here and start to stack the damage up on the other side of Seth as well here. So we will be seeing rare candy into the Dragapult here, and a Phantom Dive on turn 2. And this is the best part about Dragapult, is when you're online, ready to go. Now, granted, there's no draw, or there's no shuffle supporter, but I believe there is a boss's orders, so could very well take the Baneri off of the bench as well and get rid of so many options here. But instead of taking the Psyduck, there's no Duskull in play. Can't just actually get rid of one of the draw engines here.
That's so rough. And there's a really unfortunate interaction for Seth here, where there's 2 different Dunsparce that people are talking about. There's the Dunsparce you see right now on his bench that has 70 HP, and the Dunsparce he just had to discard that has 60 HP. 60 HP is not enough to survive a Phantom Dive attack, so it got 1 hit knocked out and sent straight to the bench. If that had been a 70 HP Dunsparce, it would have stayed on the bench. The problem is it's very difficult to find that Dunsparce card right now. No one had been playing it for so long because the 60 HP Dunsparce has a free retreat cost. That means it can come in and out of the active without having to discard energy, which is extremely strong in a deck like Lopunny, where you need to retreat into your Lopunny to use that attack. Unfortunately, with it in the discard pile, it's not going to be helpful right now.
And Seth needs a lot of help off this Pokegear. And Lily's determination to shuffle back this hand into the deck to try and get some more cards going for him. Will be able to find it, though. Just doing a quick check of the hand to make sure he doesn't want to make another move, and attaching the Mist Energy, which does go on the Baneri here. But then we'll be seeing Lily's determination for the turn. We got to see a Dunsparce.
Mist Energy is extremely useful in this scenario. Mist Energy is able to prevent effects of attacks on your Pokemon, and Phantom Dive's damage counters are classed as an effect. That's not extra damage, that's damage counters. So anything with a Mist Energy on it is immune to being bench damaged by Phantom Dive. That means Bunnery is going to have to be forced into the active with the boss's orders if Kian wants to repeat that immediate knockout play, wiping the board of attacking possibilities. Seth here, meanwhile, is trying to get an attacker of some kind going. Kian's hand and his hand size is going to be relevant for Mega Frostlass's attack if that comes into play, but it doesn't look like he has a ton of cards. Doesn't look like Seth has any one-hit KO options available right now.
Doesn't even want to use the Pokepad drawn to go grab the Dunsparce either. And I believe that's a second boss's orders in hand as well, but the first recon directive here is going to give Kian a couple of options. Does utilize Pokepad immediately, and we can assume as such that we're going to be grabbing the second Drat Cloak there. But thinking about grabbing, using the Pokepad to grab the Drat Cloak here, second recon directive, but honestly, Kian's in a great spot.
I really like the way that recon directive was handled. We saw the card that was going to the bottom was the Dawn. It went straight to the deck because going to go search the deck with Pokepad. Just one way to manage your hand and manage, frankly, a lot of cards at once quickly. You have to make sure that you don't drop your deck, that you shuffle it correctly, that you know where the cards are going, that you're not mistaking any steps. It's a skill that a lot of newer players need to start developing, and we're seeing a lot of it from Kian here. Excellent player, great role model to learn from if you're trying to pick up Dragapult as well.
Lily's Determination going to be the supporter for choice here. Unfortunately, it wasn't a boss's orders. That would have been massive. It was a full art Night Stretcher. But still, I mean, only 6 cards now for Kian here, but still, with 2 Dracloaks already set up, that Rose's Encouragement is a very interesting card. I like how players are starting to give it a little bit more respect, because it is kind of a card that you can play when you are running behind, and it's actually perfect for Dragapult because you can attach 2 basic energy from your discard pile to your stage 2. So what we saw yesterday a lot with Dragapult, with using resources to get Night Stretcher and then having all that energy go down early, Rose's Encouragement is a great supporter to put in your deck to make sure you can guarantee fighting that energy in the very late game.
Yeah, it's reminiscent of supporters like Raihan, which was very popular in the Sword and Shield meta. Now we've got it in this new form with Rose's Encouragement. It's a little bit different, doesn't quite do the same thing, doesn't automatically search for a card for you, but the effect of attaching energy is super relevant versus Dragapult. And it's a little bit different from Crispin, which requires you to have exactly what you're looking for in the deck. So Rosa would be more useful in that late game scenario, or especially versus a Crushing Hammers variant. Ooh.
Well, it is going to be the Phantom Dive coming out from Kian here, another prize card. And just this early rare candy into Dragapult Crispin combo has done him so well. Seth does need to respond here. Hopefully this turn does have a Dunsparce in and going into the active here, so can start drawing. All we need to see is a Mega Lopunny at some point, right?
We have to, but the problem is he can't just promote the Baneri into the active because that's not going to be enough to trigger Lopunny's attack effect. He needs to put something else in the active, perhaps that other Dunsparce. There it is. So it looks like the plan for this turn is to just draw out of this really unfortunate bench scenario, get as many Pokemon in play as you can to prevent many board wipes, but also get an attacker ready to go, whether that's going to be the Frostlass, whether that's going to be the Lopunny. Really is going to be up to whatever he draws off his hand here. He's got a Pokegear, he's got a Pokepad, he's got some choices to get things out of his deck. Does he have enough ways to get the correct attacker out of his deck is the real question. And ideally, some way to get a knockout on this Dragapult, because Kian's board state is so oppressive with 3 energy already down, 2 Dracloak, a Duskull ready to go to clear out this game. With only 3 prizes remaining, Seth has to feel the pressure as much as possible. He's going to make the most of every card this turn.
Not only do you want to see your Mega Lopunny this turn, you also need to find a way to get Psyduck out of the discard pile as well here. So Seth going to use Pokegear to find that Lily's Determination again, and may actually have to use it. I'm not seeing the Mega Lopunny, but I am seeing the Night Stretcher to get back that Psyduck, so game will essentially be saved for next turn. We'll have another turn to try and get things going, but Seth needs to attack.
Exactly. Psyduck is only effective if it's on the field. Bench or active, doesn't matter. It just has to be out. Fortunately, with it out of the discard, that will protect from most board wipe scenarios, especially if a Battle Cage comes down from Seth. That could be another way to prevent a board wipe on that very damaged Snorunt, but there's no 2-prize Pokemon, so I don't think Kian's going to be able to take this game because of the Psyduck immediately and with the missed energy on it to prevent any other kind of Phantom Dive shenanigans. Lots of ways to make this game work. Seth is not giving up any ground. Does he have the attacker that he needs, though?
Has to find it get started on this damage. Does have a Dunsparce, but there's the Ultra Ball. Whew. So we'll be able to at least guarantee the Mega Lopunny coming into play. I love how this deck does play 4 copies of the Wally's Compassion. We saw this yesterday with Hal's deck on how, yes, you can absolutely tank a hit from Dragapult, but then you can clear all that damage and then go into your next Lopunny on the bench thanks to Air Balloon, and then keep stacking up the damage. I think it's a very fun deck, and it does a really good job of keeping itself consistent when you're able to get things started here. So 3 cards off of the runaway draw. Do you see the Mega Frostlass as well? Like you had mentioned, that could come into play a little bit later, but Mega Lopunny really wants to get started on stacking up this damage.
Absolutely everything Seth needed came into the hand that turn, and there were a lot of cards drawn to make sure that happened. Looks like Lopunny will be able to deal enough damage with his first attack to set up for a 2-hit KO, and because of the state of this board, I don't think there's going to be a board wipe from Kian this turn unless there's some kind of double gust Monkey Dory play that it just isn't set up on board right now. So it looks like Seth is going to have a chance to come back here. Plenty set up for next turn in case of any shuffle supporters like Judge or other ways to disrupt. With the Air Balloon and the Lopunny as well, that's going to make sure that it can retreat, use the Dunsparce to runaway draw, put that back in the deck, and then put Lopunny right back in the active. And with the Wally's Compassion to either lift the energy back in the hand and heal up all the way, Lopunny is not going to be easy to knock out, which means that's going to give even more wiggle room to take prizes and to get back in this game versus Kian.
Wondering if Kian's going to focus more on trying to get that side duck out. Still absolutely does have a lot of time. Kian is up 3 prizes here. Mega Lopunny in of itself is 3 prizes there. Could absolutely start taking the map here, but could also just work up this Dusknoir very slowly as well here. Has to figure out the exact line he wants to take.
There's also an interesting strategy here where you may not even evolve your Dracloak into your Dragapult right away. Typically, we want to see players build up their board state with a lot of attackers so that you have more attackers than your opponent, and then when you start trading off knockouts, you're able to weather any unfair stamp or Judge or other hand disruption without issue. Looks like instead, though, he's going to go for a more disruptive play.
Disruptive indeed, and that is Meowth EX's ability, last ditch catch here to grab that boss's orders. And one could probably assume that it will be the bossing the Psyduck on the bench there, and then stack some more damage onto the Snorunt. Unfortunately, no Battle Cage in play, so those damage counters can still very well fly.
That Meowth, and I really love the energy attachment there. There's been a lot of times this entire stream where players have taken a Pokemon like Meowth or Pheasantipity and locked it up with Yveltal. Now, we don't know if Seth has any of those or any other options, but putting an energy on Meowth means it will be untrappable. No boss's orders is going to get it stuck in the active because it could just pay 1 energy to retreat, or even if it does get trapped with something like Yveltal's Clutch Attack, you can use Meowth's Tuck Tail with just 2 more attachments. That's enough to lift it off the board, allow you to get back to attacking, and get going.
Great Phantom Dive there from Kian, showing why he has these top placements. Does take out the Psyduck and the Snorunt as well, so that is going to allow no Mega Frostlass to come inside of the game either here. So now the Dunsparces are going to have to go down, and here's the thing, not going to be able to keep your bench too clear either. You have a Duskull that's ready to evolve into a Dusclops, so it might just have to be this one Mega Lopunny versus the world.
Well, that Lopunny is going to be very difficult to knock out, particularly with Wally's Compassion available. What we're going to see now is Seth forcing Kian to play a 8 prize card game. Now, as you may see on the prize cam, there are usually 6 cards in your prizes, so it's not like you're forcing your opponent to put 2 more down and draw 2 more prize cards, but because Lopunny is a 3 prize card Pokemon, knocking it out takes 3 prize cards. Even though there's only 1 left, you have to get through a lot more HP than just a single 1 prize to Dunsparce or just the Snorunt.
Interesting, but it is going to be the boss's orders for the Duskull, but then Kian has a boss's orders of his own to bring up the Dunsparce and use his Dragapult EX's Phantom Dive to take that first game. And like I said, this player has results for a reason. A very clean game from Kian for game 1.
That was incredible, and the other problem too with Lopunny is that if you have it in the active, you're not going to be able to re-trigger its first attack. You need to attach another energy to it and use its second attack, which bypasses effects. And if you really wanted to get that game going, you kind of have this scenario where you choose, do I want to leave the Dunsparce on the bench or not? Don't have those choices, though, this time.
Unfortunately, though, for Seth in this game one, was not able to start anything more than just a Psyduck, a water energy, and trying to make it through. But thanks to Kian's rare candy Dragapult and energy attachments, was able to get all the way up and start spreading these damage counters around. No battle cage in sight to help. A couple of missed energy, trying to take out just the looming threat of Duskull, but then boss's orders, just taking the Dunsparce and using Phantom Dive to take Kian to game 2, going one up here. Let's see how Seth's going to be able to respond, hopefully with a Buddy Poppin in hand or even a Fan Rotom to show the consistency of that.
And the other cool thing about Buddy that we saw right at the end of that game, when it was placed in the active, you might be wondering, why was it Buddy? Doesn't that only do 10 damage with Edgy Pollen? It's got free retreat, so putting up the Buddy meant you could just immediately swap back over to the Phantom Dive Dragapult. Now this time, Seth is going to see if he can get a better start, if he can get more Baneri, if he can protect those Baneri with missed energy, if he can protect with the Psyduck. Maybe Fan Rotom will come out this game, hopefully something. And we're going to go immediately into the gameplay.
Well, there it is. Starting the Psyduck, but will be able to start the Buddy Poffin this time as well. Seth going first here too, definitely an advantage in a deck like this because Mega Lopunny has so much HP. Let's check the prizes though, and that's 2 Baneri in the prizes, and guess how many there are in the deck list.
This is dreadful.
Yeah, this is not exactly what you want to see if you're Seth. You can see kind of the going through a very diligent deck search as he has to check his hand and double check that he's seeing what we're seeing here, and that is no access to Mega Lopunny this game. I mean, it's going to have to be Mega Frostlass or even Dunsparce EX to be the one to take knockouts to try and get the Baneri out of the prize.
Certainly not. Fortunately, one of those Baneri is very close to the top of the prizes, so able to take that quickly as long as you can get that knockout. I have a lot of hope for this Snorunt. There needs to be something, though. It really, look at this Fan Rotom. That's, that could take a knockout on a Dreepy. You'd have to put a Stadium in play, but that first attack is enough to take 70 damage. That's enough to get that first prize. That could be enough to get the Baneri. That could be enough to turn the whole game around. So come on, Seth, show us what you got.
It's going to be a very interesting play around here. At least there are some draw engines available with 3 Dunsparce on to the bench here. And that's what you want to see with your Psyduck, having a missed energy all ready to go. But let's head back on over into Kian's side. Double Dreepy and the attach for turn as well. The only thing that's a little troubling is that there is no draw supporter there. Does have Rare Candy Dragapult for next turn at least, but this is Seth's go time. Now, you were talking a little bit about Fan Rotom's Assault Landing to try and get something out of the active here, but that's Kian's Monkey Dory. Assault Landing is not going to be enough to get a prize going first.
Fortunately, we're going to see some Dunsparce runaway draw. That's going to create some options to maybe get a boss's orders. Could get, not just to lose determination, but certainly put Seth at a hand advantage compared to Kian, who we just saw did not play a supporter going second the very first time you could play a supporter. That means that Seth is going to avoid shuffling his hand as much as possible to prevent giving Kian the tools to get back in this game, assuming that the Dragapult Rare Candy is not going to be enough for him.
Grabbing the Hilda off of the Pokepad, could very well use it to find that third to Dunsparce to keep drawing, and will use it. Hilda, a great supporter from Black Bolt White Flare, allowing you not only to find an energy, but also to find a evolution Pokemon as well. So that could be a Dunsparce, or it could be that Mega Frostlass there, which is going to have to be kind of the chosen attacker, at least for the first part of this game. Most players like to go with this Resentful Refrain attack that you see on your screen. It does 50 damage for each card in your opponent's hand. Now, granted, we're in this weird scenario with Seth, who has to get something going here. So usually we see this as kind of this late game cinch here, but it's going to have to be Resentful Refrain. Does Seth pick up the Baneri? Let's see what he's taking.
No!
And it's the water energy. Going to have to wait another turn.
I don't think we're going to be seeing the second attack from Frostlass, Absolute Snow, anytime soon. That deals 150 plus creates sleep on your opponent's side of the field. That could be disrupted by evolution, but of course, with the rare candy, there's nothing that can evolve from Dragapult EX. I think it's just going to be that first attack, taking a 2-hit KO from Seth until that Baniri finally decides to come in for work that morning. So far, though, it looks like Kian is just doing that deck search. This is his first deck search because that first turn just did not give him any tools to work with. He's got a Poke Pad, probably for a Dracloak. Trying to figure out what he has.
And it was the top deck as well. The only option that Kian really had was Rare Candy Dragapult and then a Jet Headbutt. So at least this Pokepad top deck is going to give him the ability to search. And like you had said, it is going to be for that Dracloak. The prizes weren't too bad. Nothing too detrimental. One of the energy in the prizes, that Meowth that was really used in game 1 is stuck at the top of the prizes as well. But if I'm Kian, I'm not too worried, especially looking at my opponent's board.
Not at all. The other thing, too, is that looking at this kind of narrow bench for Dragapult, that doesn't mean you're out of the game. There's plenty of Pokemon you can put down that are basics that are useful for you. Not just this Duskull line that, unfortunately, you won't be able to use because of the Psyduck. There's the Pheasantipity. There's the other Meowth in the deck. You can even put down Budew just for a little bit of retreat. So it's not like the end of the world that you only have 2 Dreepy in play. Even 1 Dragapult is enough to start swaying the game entirely. And there was also another really good play last turn I wanted to highlight. Psyduck had a missed energy on it. You could have discarded that missed energy in order to retreat manually. Instead, Seth chose to put an air balloon down. That's one of the tool cards available that decreases retreat cost so that Psyduck could retreat for free, just like Budew does. And by doing that, missed energy is preserved, meaning Phantom Dive cannot knock out Psyduck. Whereas if you had just discarded it and saved the air balloon for perhaps a necessary Lopunny, you would not have been able to protect Psyduck. So going to see that Jet Headbutt and pass over to Seth.
Yeah, Kian is in a very interesting position where, yes, you have a Dragapult, but you're only using your Jet Headbutt here. So back on over into Seth's sides, but Kian has done something very smart, has played a lot of the cards in his hand down. I think he has only 1 card in hand left, so this Resentful Refrain isn't going to chip away at the Dragapult as much as he'd like here, using Ultra Ball now to find another Dunsparce, but you can see that Mega Lopunny going straight into the discard there, unfortunately for him. But we'll be able to at least get some more draw ready to go, but I have to say this might just be Resentful Refrain from Seth again.
We've seen a lot of Crispin this weekend. Unfortunately, Crispin is not available. That means Absolute Snow is not going to be dealing 150. It's not going to be a 2-hit KO. It's going to be a small hit from Resentful Refrain unless something else happens to change that. It's not going to be a hand disruption card like Judge, which would actually give Kian more cards, which would increase the damage of Resentful Refrain. Instead, it's going to be Lily's determination to continue keeping that hand advantage strong.
And Seth, unfortunately, not having any access to Baniri because they're both in the prizes here. That will just have to kind of rely on Mega Frostlass to get things done. Does play down the Battle Cage here. This is kind of a niche supporter specifically for these Pokemon that place a bunch of damage counters onto your bench here, but don't you love it? You recon Directive and find your second Dracloak there and can continue your search here. And as Kian kind of played to his outs a little bit earlier, trying to keep the hand size as small as possible so Resentful Refrain isn't going to do too much damage to Dragapult.
Managed to get a Rosas as well. Interesting choice there off the Recon Directive. When you were talking about decreasing the hand size, you have Ultra Ball, which can discard cards from your hand. And honestly, I think Kian could get to a hand size of 0 if that happened. Or Poke Pad, which you could just play down immediately. It looks like Kian wants to preserve the Rosa's encouragement because at least it's a supporter. Because if you don't have any energy in play, Rosa will literally grab the only energy that's been in play the entire game back out of the discard.
See what the third Recon Directive will do. And really, most players in this situation would just automatically grab the Lily's Determination. But Kian may want to keep the hand size very small here. So could very well use it, but no, instead will take the Pokepad. And it's a matter of actually using it. Seth does have a Psyduck in play, so would not be able to use Cursed Blast next turn, but could potentially get it set up anyway if he chooses to get more aggressive.
Very rarely do you have a hand of 3 cards, see a Lily, your only supporter, and go, nah, I don't feel like it.
Right.
Most players would instantly just snag that Lily's and go, it's time, I'm going to draw cards, I'm going to come back in the game, I've got 6 prizes, I'm going to get cards, it's going to be great. No. That's not happening. We have Frostlass in the house. That means you're going to play slowly and steadily. It's another one of those mind games players can enable in order to make their player's turn work for them. Seth is getting helped here because Kian cannot go the full distance to get as many cards as possible because that actually hurts his game.
Well, here comes Wally's Compassion here. We saw this card in full effect yesterday, and Seth is playing 4 of them. You can heal all of the damage from one of your Mega Evolution Pokemon EX. And if you heal any damage this way, you put all the energy to that Pokemon back into the hand. It doesn't even get discarded. It goes right back into the hand, which is pretty good. So all of that Jet Headbutt that Kian did for 2 turns, unfortunately, gets invalidated thanks to one supporter.
Okay, that Recon Directive was extremely important because now there's a Psychic Energy in the hand that's going to start enabling Phantom Dives. The problem is that they're all slowed down by the Battle Cage. You can't do anything if the damage counters are blocked. And then there's also a lot more cards in hand now because of these Recon Directives. Kiana's going to have to play down his hand as much as possible. Perhaps he wishes he had that Ultra Ball now.
Does have 2 stadium bumps in the hand with both Area 0 Underdepths and the Jamming Tower as well here. Could very well bump the Battle Cage and start stacking damage onto something like that Fan Rotom here. I like when Dragapult players do play this Area 0 Underdepths, especially when you're playing something along the lines of this Dusknoir line, so you can get multiple lines set up here. But if you do play Area 0 Underdepths, a lot of people forget Dragapult EX is technically a Terra Pokemon, so it does apply to it.
Area 0 Underdepths, if played, and it looks like Kian was debating it there, will allow you to have up to 8 benched Pokemon. As you were talking about, the extra Duskull count creates even more threats of board wipes, creates even more chances for Phantom Dive to actually take a one-hit KO that turn because Dusknoir or Dusclops will set up your opponent's Pokemon, and all it takes is just a few 300 damage, maybe 310, to get rid of that Absolute Snow Mega Frostlass. Right now, it just looks like trying to decide what's the best way to run this turn, choosing to go for a Phantom Dive, going to still be able to put down those damage counters because Battle Cage is gone. They just won't go onto the Psyduck. Instead, they're going to be split onto the Rotom and the Snorunt. I really love that choice. By splitting them around, you've created a scenario where you only need 2 damage counters or perhaps even a Monkey Dory to get rid of the Fan Rotom. Meanwhile, on the other side, it just takes 1 Phantom Dive to knock out the Snorunt. And he doesn't know this, that's Seth's only other option for an attacker. So if the Mega Frostlass and the Snorunt are gone at the same time, Seth has no options. Probably knows that there's no Banuri because of that Fan Rotom, but fortunately, Wally's Compassion will come in and save the day.
Save the day again. Like we had talked about, this is a 4 of in this deck here. So now it is going to be another fresh Mega Frostlass here. And while, yes, you can absolutely use this on your Lopunnies, and we saw that in Game 1, and we saw yesterday, it still very well works on the Mega Frostlass as well. And 310 is not too easy to hit when Psyduck is in play for Dragapult Dusknoir, so does have to take his time. But still, Kian, I mean, look at his side of the board. Has 3 Dracloaks ready to go. The only thing that I think is missing is just 1 energy attachment onto one of them.
There's also a scenario here where Seth doing a Resentful Refrain right now will only deal 150 damage. That's not enough to knock out this Dragapult. But Judge will get up to 4 cards in Kian's hand, which would be enough to take that knockout. So it's really going to depend on what's... Nope, going to just go straight for it. 150 down. That Dragapult is closer and closer to being knocked out every second. But without Professor Turo's research in the format anymore, there's no way to just lift up that Dragapult. It is very damaged.
Yeah, unfortunately, Professor Turo's scenario and Penny, both cards that we lost in rotation, that really kind of helped players really get through everything. Does find a boss's orders, and it looks like that is going to immediately be the pull here. I think Kian's going to want to go for that Psyduck this turn. We'll be able to at least get 2 prizes before his Dragapult goes down. But really what I'm looking at more is that there is no energy, or does have the energy in hand, so at least we can see some sort of energy attachment onto the Dracloaks before we know that this Dragapult's going down.
Every piece of information available to both Seth and Kian is being used here. For example, how long you take to take your Recon Directive might influence your opponent's decision on whether to use a Judge or a Boss's Orders. It just depends on what you're worried about your opponent having. If you think your opponent needs to dig for resources and makes a happy expression on their face, you got to go, yep, time to disrupt your hand, goodbye. Or if your opponent knows that and kind of plays with your mind a little bit, maybe you need to hold those resources. So at the moment, just going to instead fill up that hand with tools, start attaching energy, hopefully get that board state going.
Speaking of boss's orders and the board state, it will be Kian using boss's orders to bring up the Psyduck here and also knock out the Snow Run on the bench as well. Kian going to be the first to go up 2 prizes in this match here. Let's see how Seth is going to be able to respond.
Taking the lead on prizes is very important. That opening set of turns may have felt a little slow, may have felt a little steady. Does not mean that Kian is not absolutely setting up an impressive board state here. Seth needs to do everything possible this turn to get that Baneri out of the prizes. Please, we need to see Lopunny.
We do, very much so. But honestly, this Mega Frostlass has been doing a great job in and of itself, thanks to Wally's compassion. It has been able to stick around for a couple of turns here. There's the Lily's Determination as well. Does have access to the Dunsparce for 3 more cards here. And I just love the way that Dunsparce has come back into the format, because this card has actually been around for a lot longer than people think. But with so much of our hand disrupt kind of gone, and Unfair Stamp being the most popular A-spec this weekend, it's nice to see that players are getting creative with how they utilize drawing in this format.
And then another thing too that I've been noticing is because you've preserved 3 recon directives, there's only 1 EX Pokemon on the field. You're preventing the Dunsparce EX from becoming a relevant attacker. If multiple Dragapult EX had come down, not only would there be less draw power on Kian's side, Seth would be able to start taking knockouts with Tenacious Tail. That's not available right now. There's just not enough damage to be dealt. Sure, you can knock out this active Dragapult, but once that's done, another 320 HP monster will take its place. So, unfortunately, going to have to be locked into that Mega Frostlass for quite some time here.
Well, might not be locked into it for too long if he's not able to find a Night Stretcher to get Psyduck back. Duskull is sitting on the bench and ready to go. Hopefully we'll be able to grab Baneri's off the prizes as well, and we'll be able to at least get 1 into play next turn, but it's back on over to Kian's side here. Let's see if he's going to be able to get Frostlass out of the equation.
That recon directive gave a choice between Buddy Buddy Poffin and Monkey Dory, and kind of an interesting dichotomy there. Which one do you take? Which one are you looking for? It looks like with that Buddy Buddy Poffin selection, perhaps he's going to be going for more Duskull.
Well, and here's the thing too, it's going to, if he is able to find all of the pieces, evolve up into the Dusknoir, this could very well be a 4-prize turn here as well, with Fan Rotom already actually being damaged on the bench. So it's going to be up to finding Rare Candy Dusknoir to wipe this perfectly healthy Mega Frostlass out of the game.
He's got Lily's Determination for 6 cards. He's got 2 recon directives available, plus 1 already taken.
There's the Rare
12
Candy.
cards. Is it there?
It's double Rare Candy. Unfortunately, did already use Supporter for turn as well, so can't use the Dawn to find the pieces.
Oh,
but there's the Dusclops. That's not the one you want. You're getting closer and closer. Has to find an Ultra Ball or even just the Dusknoir here. Does have the Pheasantipity EX in hand as well. That enables for 3 more cards here. 3 cards there will be. The Unfair Stamp as well. Does have 1 more Dracula to get things going too. Let's see, can he find it? No,
not yet. Every card that you draw is not going to thin out your Unfair Stamp, though, because that shuffles your entire hand into your deck. So the odds of getting it, the sequencing there was actually really, really well done, because you've got a better chance of getting it off the Recon Directive when your deck is smaller compared to when your deck gets larger. So very good sequencing from Kian there. There's the Unfair Stamp. Unfortunately, it's going to also put back the Rare Candy, so that's 2 cards you need off of a 5-card hand. The odds are even slimmer because your deck is full of more cards again. I don't think we're going to see it.
Well, for what saves Seth here is that there's still a Dunsparce with 70 HP. It's not damaged, but that means off of these 2 cards that he draws, it has to be a Dunsparce here. Let's see what the 5 cards Kian draws is. Has used all of the options here. There's the Monkey Dory in Dark and another Duskull, but there's that Ultra Ball that he could have used. Maybe using it now to even just grab something like Dusclops to potentially keep going for next turn, make it a little bit easier without the Rare Candy here.
That's tough. There's a second school of thought also that in your sequencing, perhaps you want to save your Recon Directives until after your Reset Stamp. That way you have a bigger hand if the Reset Stamp fails, which, since it's more likely to fail if you don't get it off the Recon Directive, you probably don't even end up in that scenario in the first place. But it's still an option to choose between, and I really love the Pheasantipity play before the Recon Directive as well. because you want to make sure you preserve your choices. Because maybe you got the cards you need, and then you use the unfair stamp, and then you get the recon directive. So it's all a matter of balancing what possibly could happen with each hand turn.
Well, the writing is starting to be on the wall here for Kian. Has painted a beautiful picture of what is to come for Seth if he is unable to find a Night Stretcher to get Psyduck back, but still 200 damage. Did he draw a Wally or a Dunsparce? The Pokepad can guarantee the Dunsparce here, but there is no way of healing this Mega Frostlass as of right now.
And with so many Wallies in the discard pile, he's not feeling very compassionate at the moment. We need to get another one, but so many of them are down. There's only 4 in the deck, and I think at least 2 of them. So it's, you know, it's a 50% chance. You either have it or you don't. But I don't like these odds for Seth. If he doesn't heal this turn, the game is over for him.
Very scary as well to be putting down some of the other Pokemon as well here. That Baniri coming down. Seth has been waiting to see it for multiple turns now, but there is still no Psyduck in place, so Curse Blast is 100% active and online.
There's a really interesting choice here where you could attack, but then you're immediately going to lose. So you have to retreat into something in order to prevent yourself from losing the game. So Seth has to choose what's going to happen, since there's not enough cards in Kian's hand to take the knockout with Mega Frostlass. And Baniri's not ready to evolve yet. It just came down. He's got to hop along with the plan.
He's got to hope that this enriching energy that he drew off of the runaway draw is going to find that Wally's compassion here to get this Mega Frostlass healed up. It's going to be 4 big cards here.
That's the problem, though. Once you use Wally's compassion, or once you use the enriching energy, Wally's compassion puts the energy back in your hand. You still need to reattach it. He just had to use that attachment. Fortunately, looks like he has it.
Yeah, I think Seth would rather at least keep this Mega Frostlass around for at least another turn here. See Buddy Poffin being played, so going to get set up. Once again, though, it is going to be that Psyduck who is still stuck in the prizes. I don't believe I saw a Night Stretcher come back into the hand off of the enriching energy.
No.
And there is still 1 in the deck, so just not finding it, unfortunately.
Yeah, really tough scenario here because you'd love to be taking damage. You'd love to be setting up board state, and especially would love to get rid of that lone Dusclops, because without Dusclops, there's no Dusknoir. Without Dusknoir, there's no one-hit KO after the Wallies. Fortunately, that's not going to be happening here. Instead, we're going to get that retreat energy to the discard, unfortunately. That's another reason you might wish for a Night Stretcher. Interesting choice there to Wally's Compassion before the energy was discarded. That way, you know, maybe if you had done it in the other order, the Frostlass would still be in the active, and you'd keep the energy. The problem is, it doesn't really matter. You need to have it in the active for the Phantom Dive attack, so putting it on the bench and then Wally's Compassioning was probably the right choice there, just to prevent any triple prize turn, if at all possible.
Well, speaking of a triple prize turn, I think that is what Kian is looking to close this set. Boss's Orders could bring the Mega Frostlass back into the active, does have the Ultra Ball as well to find Dusknoir, but needs to find the Boss's Orders to get Frostlass back into the active. Now, granted, could also just stack some damage around the board as well, and that wouldn't be too bad of a consolation prize as well, especially because this Dragapult is still very, very healthy.
Yeah, and especially, I love the choice here to promote the 60 HP Dunsparce, because even though Kian could win this turn, there's more turns than just that. Seth is hoping to drag out this game as much as possible to get the Lopunny in play. And by putting the free retreat Dunsparce up there, 1, you can guarantee that you retreat in the Lopunny. 2, you're going to prevent a Phantom Dive. 60 damage counters is just enough to knock it out. So by putting it in the active, if it's going to get knocked out anyway, you might as well sponge the 200 damage from the Phantom Dive and make sure that nothing else can get knocked out on your bench, so that Kian can only go down to 2 prizes instead of perhaps 1 prize, which is even worse when you've got the Dunsparce in play. And maybe you've used all your Pokepads, maybe you've used all your Hilda, maybe you just can't get to it, and then now all of a sudden you've got this immediate knockout scenario with the Monkey Dory that's already charged up if you do any 2-hit KO damage to that Dragapult. So making his options as wide as possible, and Dunsparce in the active with its 60 HP was the first step in that plan.
Has to also be very careful if he chooses to Cursed Blast here. And if that Baniri remains and Seth is able to find a Boss's Orders, that Pheasantipity on the bench is a very big liability to a Gale Thrust. So might have to take care of the Baniri this turn with this Dusknoir, and then try and find that last prize card somewhere else. And there it is, Curse Blast onto the Baniri. and to take one prize card here, but that Lopunny is not going to be seeing any play this game.
He could still win this turn, though. Now that he's cleared out his bench, all he needs is Meowth EX to come down, search out a boss's orders, and then all of a sudden, that 60 HP Dunsparce is now on the bench. Perfect target for your Phantom Dive. Search up another Dunsparce, and now all of a sudden, that's 2 prizes taken, plus the Cursed Blast. It's very, very risky for Seth right now.
Unfortunately for Kian to not grab the Meowth until the attack goes all the way through. So it is going to be Kian at 1 prize, and Seth not going to be able to find a Lopunny in this game. What can he do? This Dragapult is completely healthy, and Kian has done an amazing job of keeping the hand size so small this entire game. When Dragapult wants to see so many cards in hand, he only has 3 right now.
I mean, there's the Dunsparce. You can at least force your opponent to take another turn to take this knockout, get some more cards in hand. Maybe there's a situation where he could get a Baniri out again out of the discard. At that point, though, you just don't want to give up the last prize. I think he's just locked in with this Frostlass. Maybe he can get an absolute Snow Sleep Flip. There's something there to that. And especially being able to force a 8-prize game again by making that last prize the Frostlass might be his only answer to lengthen this game and make something happen in these last turns.
It is going to be a runaway draw. 3 more cards drawn. Does have a Dunsparce. It is so risky to reset up a full bench of Dunsparces as well. Now, granted, Kian has decided to fully use his Cursed Blast line, but there it is, the Dunsparce EX coming into play as a secondary attacker.
Going to unfortunately get blocked by that jamming tower if the air balloon comes down. It looks like he wasn't sure. He's committed to it. Air balloon is going to give Frostlass that free retreat, and jamming tower is going to say, no, you don't actually have free retreat right now. I'm going to just take a little break. Ooh. What do you think of that Gust play right there with the boss's orders?
Well, it gets rid of the search, right? And that is exactly what Seth wants to avoid the most. But unfortunately, I do think Kian did draw the Meowth off of the prizes as well here too. So taking the long way, but it does feel like the right thing to do. It's going to be Tenacious Tail, which does 60 times the amount of Pokemon EX, and that is going to be 2 on the side of Kian here. But fortunately does not place the Dunsparce down, does have the Meowth to get boss, but doesn't have the Cursed Blast line to get it done this turn.
Yeah, the other problem here is that any damage you do that isn't a full knockout can get pushed right back on you with the Monkey Dory Adrenabrain ability. It's been very quiet, just sitting on the bench there, minding its own business. All of a sudden now Monkey Dory is relevant because you just don't have enough one-hit KO options right now. And so that means every 30 damage that turn, getting pushed back on a Frostlass is another turn you need Wally's Compassion. With so many of them in the discard, I think there's only 1 left available. That's going to mean Seth cannot keep this Frostlass around forever. Just needs it long enough to get that last prize, though. So if Seth can pull another boss's orders out, can even gust up the Monkey Dory, that may be enough to close the game. It's just, oh, there it is. He just flashed it.
It's going to be boss's orders for the game here, and Seth going to be able to bring it all the way back here using, I guess, the 3rd attacker in this deck, and that is going to be the Dunsparce EX, not just for Crustle, for getting those Dracloaks, and Seth crawling all the way back from not having a single Baniri in the game, but was masterfully using those Wally's Compassions to clear out the damage from Mega Frostlass. Let's check out the replay for this game, because if you missed it, it was gone here. Here we go, though. It was looking a little bit rough for Seth in the beginning, but did fortunately get to go into Frostlass very early, and then going into Dragapult as well, spreading out all of this damage. But it was the Cursed Blast onto the Baniri the moment it hit the bench. We didn't see Mega Lopunny this whole game.
I know, and Baniri hopped on out of there, and then the Dunsparce EX had to come in with a steel chair and save the day. Beautiful work. I didn't even think that line was available at that point. Forgot that Pheasant W was an EX, honestly. But having those outs on your mind is the strategy here. Don't get discouraged by the way that Baniri just didn't cooperate with you. Look at the resources you do have available, and that's what Seth did here. Beautiful work.
And I do believe there was sort of there was a misstep with the attachment 4 turn onto the Monkey Dory. That very well took away game from Kian as well, but it is going to be us heading into a game number 3 and a better start for Seth here, starting the fan Rotom, but it's going to be Kian going first.
Kian going first is going to mean he evolves faster. It's going to mean that he may not play a supporter this turn, but that's not going to stop him from having all those Dreepies, and then immediately this next turn having Dracloak and potentially repeating that game 1, Rare Candy, Dragapult, immediate attack, and then all of a sudden Seth is out of resources. So Seth needs to be very cautious this turn with what gets set up in order to prevent a immediate double or even triple prize loss.
And speaking of prizes, the prizes on Kian's side aren't too bad. The only thing that I have my eyebrow raised is that jamming tower. Both players do play 2 stadiums in each deck, and we know that Seth's Battle Cage is the one that's stopping a lot of these damage counters from being flown around the board here. But looking on over at Seth's side, 1 copy of Wally's being prized, not exactly what you want to see here. But Seth does have a much better starting board and the Battle Cage and Lily's Determination ready to go. We will be seeing Mega Lopunny this game.
Making sure that the Dunsparce that get played are all the 70 HP ones. Absolutely no chance of the 60 HP Phantom Dive immediate knockout, which could happen because of the energy on that bench Dreepy. And also, interesting choice there to put it on the bench rather than the active. You're definitely looking at that Rotom and going, I could get knocked out, let me put it on the bench where it's more protected. That's probably what was going through Kian's head, and it looks like that's going to make it more likely that Kian can attack this turn.
Ooh, and speaking of attacking, it will be the Assault Landing from Fan Rotom, because there is a stadium in play, was able to get rid of the one of 2 Dreepies on the board. And look at Kian's board, using the Night Stretcher to get back that Soul Dreepy, evolving into Dracloak, and then Lily's Determination. Kian needs a little bit of help. Can also start to set up the Cursed Blast line as well. There is no Psyduck in play as of right now here, but I think Kian's a little bit more worried about these Dreepies.
Fantastic to have that Lily's Determination. One of Seth's win conditions here is to hope that there's just not enough basics and all of a sudden you've cleared out your opponent's board of basic Pokemon and you win the game so quickly. Because of the Night Stretcher for the Dreepy and the discard, that is not going to be an option. Going to require multiple turns to clear it out, and there's a Buddy Pop, and that's going to make it even harder to get rid of all your basics on time.
Yeah, no items, no problem. Did already have 2 Dreepies in the hand off of Lily's Determination. We'll be using this Buddy Poffin to search out the Duskull and also do the deck check as well. But looky, here comes our favorite friend, Budew, coming immediately down onto the bench to try and slow down Seth here. But benching what now is a much better board than turn 1 for Kian here, and here comes that Itchy Pollen.
Preserving that energy on the bench allowed this retreat into Itchy Pollen. Itchy Pollen's going to prevent those item cards. That means no Pokegear. That means it's just going to come down to supporters and what's in your hand and perhaps enriching energy. I don't see that available right now.
No, unfortunately, no enriching energy, but does have a Pokepad in hand to go reliably grab the Dunsparce if he so chooses to. Does have a lot of good cards in hand as well, so we'll be seeing draw this turn, but we're now in overtime, by the way. You know, it's timeout, and you can't finish a whole game between these 2 decks in 3 turns, so it will be a tie between both Kian and Seth here, but great displays of what both decks can truly do.
It's really tough on stream to get everything going and lined up, but it's even harder when your own deck isn't cooperating with you. Seth not taking any chances, though, making the most of every turn available to snatch that all-important match point and stay undefeated. I mean, look at his record.
Very, very true here. 803, and Kian will go to 911, which is still a amazing record. Still very well in the line for that asymmetrical top cut here. And I am so excited to go through this match again. Let's check out the replay and how we saw Dunsparce EX save Seth into a tie.
I mean, from that game 1 with the Psyduck stuck in the active suit all the way, coming down to having the difficulty with the Baniri, finally getting it only for it to go straight back to the discard. That was a really rough set of circumstances that Seth found every possible out to. And look at those Phantom Dives, just spreading the damage around, creating so many opportunities to take those prizes. Seth had to rely on those Wally's Compassion to get through some really difficult turns and board states. I mean, the math you had to do on the Phantom Dives alone made sure that you had to promote the correct Dunsparce, promote and keep the right things off of your bench, not overbench, not put too many resources down that could get knocked out. So very good choices made by both players here. Unfortunately, not quite enough to get a solid win for Kian, but Seth was able to take the absolute most out of a really rough start.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we head into this game number 2, this strange kind of end game, it felt like that Monkey Dory attach actually could have gone somewhere else and would have been game right then and there, but not having access to Mega Lopunny at all allowed for the Dunsparce